With me, Carly. Hope you are all well, witches. On today's episode, we are talking all about the Blackthorn. It often dwells on the edge of woodlands, forming dense thickets and hedgerows, often alongside hawthorn and elder. It's even apparently found on the path leading to the White Horse of Uffington that we talked about on the Rhiannon episode. It's more of a large shrub than a tree, but often referred to as a tree. Blackthorn has many names and many uses, and you may be more familiar with it as the sloe or slowberry, but it also goes by the names Buisson noir, Crackia, Endrino, Epine noir, Prunellia, or wild plumflower. The name spinosa is a Latin term describing the plant's pointed and thorn-like spur shoots. More commonly called blackthorn, that name is just as descriptive, considering the thorns and nearly black bark. It's a member of the rose family. Blackthorn was used by the Celts to create a barrier to keep out intruders due to its thorny exterior. Its strong wood has been made to make walking sticks, such as the Irish shillelagh. In a time when the Irish and Scottish were not allowed to legally carry weapons, they started carrying shillelaghs, also known as bata, which means fighting stick. The name was coined after the Shillelagh Forest, New Arklow, County Wicklow. Sometimes these sticks were made from oak, ash, or holly, but the original ones were made from blackthorn due to its hardness, strength, availability, and the convenient knob that forms from the shrub's roots. The bark was left on the bata as it is particularly tough. They would go on to cure it in many ways. One of them was burying it in a dung heap or smearing it with lard, then placing it in the chimney. This is what gives the shillelaghs their black, shiny appearance. They were finished off with oils and sealants to be carried as a walking stick and an improvised weapon. Some were even finished off with magpie blood to give them a darker colour. In modern day, blackthorn sticks are carried by officers of the Royal Army Regiment, and you will often see them represented in parades, sports teams' logos, and more of the same. People of the Dark Ages truly believed they were called black rods, which was a thorny wand used for binding or blasting spells, the latter being magic in which the supposed user, specifically a woman, could destroy the fertility in a man, breeding animals, or crops. Many a penis problem was blamed on women in these times. Blackthorn is also associated with witchcraft in Scotland. In 1670 in Edinburgh, Major Thomas Weir was burned as a witch along with his most powerful magical tool, a blackthorn staff carved with a satyr's head, which was said to have fantastic powers. It was even able to fly through the air. Major Weir claimed that he received this magic staff from the devil, but it is more likely that he obtained it whilst he served as an officer under General Leslie in Ireland. The Major was a pious covenanter, and people came from miles around to hear his sermons. He was considered the saint of West Bow until one day in 1670, instead of his usual sermon, he confessed years of debauchery with his sister Jean to the congregation. Brother and sister were both tried and condemned to death, and his ghost, along with the infamous Blackthorn staff, is still said to haunt the Edinburgh West Bow district. In Irish tales, heroes were aided by the blackthorn tree. If they threw a twig of blackthorn after them, it would take root and form an impenetrable hedge or woods, thwarting the pursuing giant. In England, witches would carve the Norse rune thorn on a blackthorn stave for protection. Often in fairy tales such as Sleeping Beauty, blackthorn forms the thick, impenetrable thorn bramble that hides the magic castle from intruders and princes alike. In order to prove worthy, the prince must cut through this thorn forest to rescue the princess. Blackthorn is said to bloom on Christmas Eve, as is the holy thorn at Glastonbury. It is one of the trees which were reputed to form the thorny crown of Christ at his crucifixion. Where blackthorn grows near its sister plant hawthorn, the site is especially magical. Blackthorn often topped the maypole entwined with hawthorn and is called Mother of the Woods. At New Year, celebrants made blackthorn crowns, which they burned in the New Year's fire, and the ashes were used to fertilize the fields. Blackthorn was sometimes woven into wreaths with mistletoe to bring luck in the coming year, and the garlands used to wassail the apple trees. The blackthorn and the hawthorn are often correlated together. The two trees dichotomies in their meaning, appearance, and associated holidays. The hawthorn has long been considered lucky, whereas the blackthorn has long been associated with dark witchcraft throughout medieval times and considered a bad omen. The blackthorn is a sacred tree to the dark or crone aspect of the triple goddess and represents the waning and dark moons. Blackthorn is known as the increaser and keeper of dark secrets. In South Devon, folklore in England, witches were said to carry blackthorn walking sticks, with which they caused much local mischief. And it doesn't help that a wound caused by one of the thorns can easily become septic, adding to its dark reputation. With blackthorn staff I draw the bound, all malice and bane I thus confound. This comes from a protection spell ignited by blackthorn for defense of setting boundaries between the individual and toxic darkness. Blackthorn was often present in exorcisms due to its purifying properties, and it provides a level of spiritual and physical safety to the user, which is seen in how the shrub itself is used as a safe haven for birds that might create nests within its thorny brambles or the cattle that herds its borders. Blackthorn has much association with death, wounding, curses, and warfare. It was often depicted in lore as a tree of ill omen. A hard winter would be referred to as a blackthorn winter. Much like old superstition and belief with hawthorn branches, it was said the flowers of the blackthorn tree should never enter a home as they carry the omen of death with them. Blackthorn is said to deal in the realm of fate and a belief that no matter what your intention or exposure to it is, it cannot be circumvented. That lack of control a user has over it is what makes it such a powerful tree. As a species, blackthorn's Latin name is Prunus spinosa. The Irish Celts knew blackthorn as Draen, and it had similar names in Welsh and Scottish language. In the archaic Ogham alphabet, it's known as Streth. This is a leading tree with an ominous reputation, and the word strife is said to derive from the word streth. The Streth Ogham stands for adversity, omens, secrecy. It can mean to focus on the root of a problem instead of its effects. Streth also offers initiation into the mysteries of self-conquest and transcendence. The blackthorn is considered the tree of death due to its connections with spirits and the underworld. It's symbolic of the sword, arrow, and spear, and linked with conflict, blood, warriors, and death. It's linked to the Morrigan as a woman warrior and deadly fate in Ireland, and the kayak in Scotland. She was known to strike the ground with a blackthorn staff to summon winter, and she is also seen as a death crone. In the Irish legend, The Pursuit of Diarmaid and Grania, a passage describes Sive eating slowberries and becoming pregnant as a result. She gave birth to a son who was born with a lump on his head. The lump turned out to be a worm or snake. The snake was eventually killed in sacrifice for another man. In the Sword of Oscar, slowberries are part of a sacrificial theme as well. Blackthorn's theme in traditional stories often indicates a warrior's death in service to the High King or tribe. Blackthorn is ruled under Saturn and Mars, which are notorious for their warring campaigns throughout mythology. At Samhain, the time when the veil thins between the world of the living and that of the dead, when crossovers happen and spirits are amongst us, Blackthorn is a wonderful tree to work with, as it's seen as the exact barrier between worlds that requires jumping the hedge. It has a strong history in hedging and dark magic. The tree is physically impenetrable to most living things, and with its connotations with death, it is believed to be that exact barrier between worlds that requires jumping. Jumping the hedge is an expression for using astral projection to pass beyond the border that separates our world and the other world, and we might want to do this to communicate with spirits. In Christian folklore, the blackthorn was considered a tree partnered with witches and overall sinister. Medieval Christians believed that the devil would use a thorn to prick the finger of his followers, leaving one of his infamous witch marks. It was also said that witches would use blackthorn stangs in curse magic, while the thorns could be used for stabbing poppets, which was known as the pins of slumber, and therein causing harm to others. To live near a blackthorn tree might not have been the best situation for a woman in these times. Some texts even suggest that witches were burned on blackthorn pyres as punishment for their malfeasance. Overall, blackthorn has been tarnished in many respects. Yes, its thorns can cause septic wounds or open portals, but let's not forget its flowers that signify the start of spring and its sloes that make many a sweet drink or delicacy. The same goes in the magic realm. Whereas blackthorn can be used for cursing, folk have also rewritten its place in healing magic over time. Much like in the physical realm, blackthorn can be used in creating safe boundaries when using powerful spells, particularly ones that require astral projecting. By building a thorny hedge around yourself, you can stop negativity and combat quite fiercely outside attacks. Use the thorns to pierce through personal issues, particularly in relation to depression or emotional toxicity at the deepest levels of our psyche, so you can begin the healing. According to Ogham Oracle, drawing a blackthorn stave or card is an indication of fated action in your life, something that cannot be avoided but must be faced and dealt with. Much like its warrior nature, it demands that you face your adversities and accept the challenges head on. The slowberries, for instance, sweeten after the first frosts, a wonderful allegory for endeavouring. Much like the inevitability of death, Blackthorn forces us to consider the unavoidable trials of living in times when there is no other choice and to conquer them. Blackthorn is significant in very human aspects and ones that many don't often like to think about because they can often be painful or abrasive. But like the transition from summer to winter, as the sloes sweeten and ripen, it is important to also recognize the shadowy aspects of ourselves. From a herbalist perspective, the most used part of the blackthorn is said to be the white flowers that pop up in early spring. However, the bark and berries are also used too. They are astringent, stimulate the metabolism, clean the blood, and are used as a laxative and diuretic. They help with indigestion, eczema, herpes, allergies, colds, catarrh, neurosis, weak heart, kidney stones, skin, bladder, and prostate problems. They disperse toxins. In the 17th and 18th century, sloes were brewed as a purgative to treat fluxes in the belly. The fruit and leaves of blackthorn contain tannins, organic acids, sugars, and vitamin C. Steeped in boiling water, the flowers have a mild diuretic, tonic, and laxative properties. The dried fruits are used to treat bladder, kidney, and stomach disorders. The liquid from the boiled leaves can be used as a mouthwash for sore throat, tonsillitis, and laryngitis. It is also good for circulations, blood strengthening, and nutrient absorption. And that is from the book The Wisdom of Trees. The leaves can be boiled into a decoction that, once cooled, is an excellent mouthwash and gargle for those suffering from tonsillitis or laryngitis. It can also be used as a soothing eye bath. A tea made from the powdered bark has a calming effect on the nerves, and that is from the book Celtic Tree Mysteries. However, it is heavily debated as to whether blackthorn is safe for consumption. Women who are pregnant or breastfeeding shouldn't consume this plant due to the poisonous chemicals that can be found in it, some of which are said to cause birth defects. And in the same vein, it's also said it's not recommended for children, as their dosing tends to be more sensitive than adults. So all I'll say is make sure you look into it if you do use it from a medicinal perspective. Blackthorn is a compact and very thorny shrub. It blooms white, small, musk-scented flowers, and again is one of the first trees of spring to bloom. It has purple-blue fruits known as sloes, and as the season progresses, the sloes ripen, usually during autumn. Parliament passed a series of enclosure acts in the UK that turned common land into individual properties. The dividing lines were made out of hedgerows, and because of its dense and pokey branches, blackthorn was perfect candidate for the job. With the hedgerows all around the locals, it didn't take them long to discover the sloes made for great booze. This berry has been found in archaeological sites from Mesolithic and Iron Age periods, proving that the blackthorn berry was part of early man's diet. Alongside gin, it can be used to make pies, jam, and chutney. The juice of the sloes have been used in dye that turns a reddish colour that washes out into a weather-resistant pale blue. Once the season has passed, it's a good time to start picking the thorns as they are hardened and visible. These are great for poking into poppets. Law indicates that both hawthorn and blackthorn trees harbour the fae, of which should certainly not be bothered, and that if a person is interested in collecting the thorns, they should do it on the sacred Beltane or Samhain holidays, stipulating that the fairies will be away from the tree at that time. The most powerful times of the year to use blackthorn for purification and banishing are said to be at Imbolc and Samhain. Its use at Samhain is said to be because its berries ripen in the winter. It helps us to prepare for the dark season to come. And it's said that at this uncanny time, the Morrigan and Dagda are said to mate. Blackthorn is also used to celebrate the fertility magic of May Day, along with its sister tree, hawthorn. Blackthorn wands were used for divination and wishing at this auspicious time of year. Bridal chambers were decorated with hawthorn and blackthorn flowers in May, the musky scent of the flowers stimulating desire. Blackthorn and hawthorn, being sister trees, represent the dark half and the light half of the year. Blackthorn is the tree of Samhain, whereas hawthorn is the tree of Beltane. By winter time, the deciduous tree sheds its yellow leaves, and all that remains is a twisted black skeleton. The shrub itself makes excellent firewood with little smoke and soaks up fine polishes easily. Growing blackthorn is said to be easy once it's established, and it requires little maintenance, but can be invasive if not kept an eye on. Some will cut it back every 2 to 3 years. However, I cannot profess to growing it myself, although I'm moving up north this year, going to have a lot more land to grow things on, so you never know. It has beautiful flowers, and it's great, of course, for creating a hedge. It's deciduous and can grow up to 12 feet high. It has black, rough, scaly bark with dense, thorny thickets. And should you ever have a wound from blackthorn, it should be treated immediately. As mentioned before, it can easily go septic. Because of their early start in correlation with the farming season, blackthorn is often used as a natural calendar for planting. In Scotland, some will use the blossoms to tell when it's time to sow the barley. So I have a blackthorn protection spell from the website druidy.org. I'll put this in the show notes, but you might wish to try this. For this, you will need a candle. Black is ideal. And try to carve it into the shape of a person as best you can. You will also need 3 blackthorn thorns. So before doing a protection spell with blackthorn, you might want to take some time to sit with your thorns in a meditation. Hold them, feel them, albeit carefully, and meditate on the vibration and energy they hold. Clarity of intention is critical when using these, as well as really developing an intimate relationship with your magical tools. These thorns hold an edge that is at once injurious and protective. Understanding that edge and how you direct the energy is important to the success of the spell. This spell must be performed with a clear intent of returning ill wishing to the source. In doing so, the spellcaster must divorce herself from all ill wishing, or the spell will backfire upon herself. Carve the name of your tormentor into the candle, naming him or her out loud. Use 3 blackthorn thorns and push each one into the candle image's forehead, heart, and stomach. Light the candle, and when it burns down to each thorn, utter these words each time. Evil return to the one who sent thee, for me and mine are now set free. No hurt nor harm can enter here, for my life and way are now made clear. Allow the candle to burn down and out. See yourself as released from the other person's energy. Your intent must not be to harm your tormentor, but to release every baneful connection between you both. If your tormentor continues to send harm, it will now be his or her responsibility and rebound on himself or herself. This spell is about protection and justice, not revenge. So the blackthorn is linked to the element earth and fire, the zodiac sign Aries and Scorpio, the stone black opal, agate and bloodstone, the colour white, black and red, and some folk names for it are sloe, slow plum, wishing thorn and fairy tree. Blackthorn can be used in protection against evil, creating boundaries, purifying, confronting our own dark side. Blackthorn dispels negativity, toxins, old wounds, and impurities, and it can be used in exorcisms. It is associated with chthonic and protective deities. Blackthorn can be used to inflict strife in any direction. It is the wielder of this magic that decides how that power will be used. As a protector, Blackthorn is potent for the protected and ominous for the would-be perpetrator. Blackthorn reminds us to accept fate and adversity as a challenge and make it work for you. This can result in unexpected sweetness in your life. Blackthorn can also herald the presence of the darker deities in your life, such as the Morrigan and Dagda. Again, this is a sign of the spiritual strength and support that is available to you if you pick up the gauntlet. It is one of the trees associated with the Banshee and the Doofshi. The Blackthorn has also been connected to Ceridwen, Morgan Le Fay, also the Calac. I also came across the Irish god Don, a father god who is associated with death. He is a paternal deity who is a gentle guide who helps us mitigate the fear associated with death. Blackthorn is the tree which helps us to face the necessity of our own death. In many magical practices, we are encouraged to face death in order to abate our morbid fear of it. Initiations are often reenactments of our own death and rebirth. On the negative side, Blackthorn can indicate a persistently negative, resentful attitude that draws negative experiences to you. Blackthorn can indicate a persistent and morbid fear of death. How you frame your life is how your life plays out. Blackthorn can be seen as a reminder not to frame your life in negative scenes, but reinterpret them in a more positive way to draw more positive experiences. You could use sloe berries for their powers of protection. Magical Blackthorn tools come in many forms. We have the Irish shillelagh, walking sticks, stangs, wands, thorns, ogham staves, berries. Most of these are used for protection, although some will still use the energy of Blackthorn for cursing. Tools made of Blackthorn must be treated with the utmost respect. Blackthorn wands or staffs can be used during initiations and are said to be particularly effective if used in conjunction with a hawthorn staff to represent death and rebirth, Samhain and Beltane. During your Samhain ritual, you could use a Blackthorn staff for the celebrants to pass under on their way to the underworld. Blackthorn opens the pathway to underworld initiation. Meditating under a blackthorn bush during the Samhain season can put you in touch with powerful underworld deities, such as the Morrigan. Wear a protective amulet with the blackthorn ogham, sloe berries, or a blackthorn wand if you choose to do so. During your Samhain or Yule ritual, you can ceremonially call the Calac the old blue hag of winter, a fearsome Scottish deity who, banging her magic blackthorn stang upon the ground, calls in the season of winter. This is the song of the Calac. What's all this merriment and cheer? Is it not winter that you fear? I am the old veiled one of the wood, and my appearance shall do you no good. My realm is cold, dead, and dark. The ground is barren, and the trees are stark. My fierce white hounds with eyes of red howl through the night, a paean to the dead. I strike my blackthorn upon the ground. Now nothing green or living shall be found. I am the Calac, and now is my reign. I shall not leave you until next Beltane. That is all I have for you today, witches. You can find me if you'd like any extra content over on my Patreon, the White Witch Coven. I'll put a link in the show notes. There is only one thing that I'm going to ask of you today, and that is, if you listen to the show and you haven't previously, if you could leave me a review on Apple Podcast or perhaps a star rating on Spotify, I'd be really grateful. It means that other witches can find the show. I will link all the details, so any of the websites that I have used for this episode in the show notes. There'll be a link to the spell there also. Aside from that, have a wonderful weekend, witches. I will catch up with you all on Monday, sending you lots and lots of witchy love.